Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Chavaidikena Yopapirutam Pragrammuninaam Patanjalim Pranjaliranakusam Stube Patanjalim Vyasam Shankaram Chamanitrayi Tatra Sutrasya Bhashyasya Kramat Viharanasya. So we should remember we are continuing a discussion of an earlier sutra. So that begins the 20th sutra of Samadhivada. That discussion is continuing. So that sutra we should remember. Shraddha, Virya, Smrti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, Iteresham. So this sutra refers to its previous sutra, that is Bhava Pratyayo Videha Prakritilayana. That is the 19th one, which deals with some advanced spiritual souls who do not reach the highest degree of perfection. That is the 19th sutra. In the 20th sutra, that is very important, we are actually discussing that sutra. That is, the sutra says, those who reach this higher concentration, that is, Samprajnata Samadhi, according to some yoga philosophers like Bhoja, and Asamprajnata Samadhi, higher Samadhi, according to Vyasa. This higher concentration it happens through a combination of some unique spiritual characteristics. They are Shraddha, Virya, Smrti and Samadhi. Shraddha means faith, as I mentioned earlier. That faith is linked to a central idea, a sense of sanctity and sacredness that we attach to an idea. That is Shraddha. So, this Shraddha becomes a natural characteristic and also a means for higher concentration. So, what is the benefit of practicing yoga? To begin with, our mind becomes calm and quiet, and we develop a kind of unique internal identity with what we do, with what we speak, what we talk. One simple example I can give. When we do something as a solemn act, let us say worship, prayer in a church, or in a temple, or in a synagogue, or reading a holy scripture with a great sense of sanctity and sacredness. So we become extremely focused on what we are doing. Now that enables us to conserve all our energy and attention to what we are doing. If we speak to a highly respectable person in a respectful manner, then words also assume a solemnity. So what happens is, we unconsciously begin to attach a sense of sanctity to what we speak. Or when we pray, we don't pray the way we speak. We become more formal, we become more a kind of solemnity, we focused on what we speak. Now suppose we can develop this quality to whatever we do in our life. So you find in Vivekananda's literature and also in Siddhartha literature. So it says, if even in those days, in the 19th century, they used to eat this what do you call this, bida, this leaf with tobacco. It's a practice. So people used to chilam, they prepare. It's preparing a smoke, so to speak. Remember, smoking was not a crime or a sin. Don't think so. Many people have this wrong feeling. A teetotaler is a very great spiritual person. In that way, Hitler was a great spiritual man. So don't think that. So these are all wrong notions which we have to break through. So people who cannot practice higher spiritual disciplines, they will focus on small, empty, ordinary things and make too much of it. I am a complete vegetarian. So there's something right. Very often, many of these obsessions are demolished by no other teacher than Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna actually. So anyway, I am coming to the subject. Now, in this, Sri Ramakrishna says, if you can prepare a smoke with a great attention, with a great care, the smoke means there is a kind of a pipe. I don't know really what it is about, which I don't smoke myself. But in the 19th century, it was a common practice. Now also in extreme polar regions of India, in the Himalayan regions, it's common. Prepare some kind of a tube and smoke. So you find, if we can prepare a smoke with a great care and attention, then with that mind you can meditate. You find such statements in Vivekananda's public works. It's a very interesting thing. So it means whatever you do, if we can do that, paying a full attention to that act, speaking a word, doing something, you attach a sense of sanctity to it and complete concentration and attention. Then it is called Shraddha. So Shraddha is a unique quality. If you can develop this quality, mind becomes calm and quiet. Will become tranquil. Because as we conserve our energy and focus on all our energy resources into what we are doing, then mind will not have any distraction. So faith, energy, of course, enthusiasm, and memory. Now this is a very important subject from psychological point of view and from yoga point of view. This memory is a very interesting word. So memory can, sometimes in a Vedantic yoga tradition, memory can be Vidya Smrti. It can be Bhoga Smrti. Another one is mindfulness. We are coming to that subject. So the word Smrti is used in this sutra. Smrti literally means memory. So it could be that what you learn, what a skill you learn, a word you learn, you may retain in your mind, or an experience you may remember. But there is a higher Smrti that is called mindfulness. So according to great writers like Vyasa, the Smrti here is mindfulness. And mind you, that's exactly the basis of this Vipassana meditation. Mindfulness. So, and that in fact, it is called in the Pali language, sometimes it's called Sati Bhaktana means. It is associated with breathing. And it is an important part of Vipassana meditation. Now, Buddha actually was a great exponent of this particular kind of concentration. So it's based on Buddha's teachings, and the original Pali text is called the Mahasatyupattana Sutta. So what it means is Mahasatyupattana Sutta. It comes in the Digha Nikaya, and also Anapana Samyutta Sutta. You develop a kind of inner awareness. Mind becomes aware, focused on full awareness. When we have this awareness, it automatically gives our mind all these qualities naturally. Shraddha, a sense of sanctity, complete focus, complete attention, and you identify with that. For such a person, whatever that person does, whatever act he does, whatever word he speaks, whatever he remembers, everything about him will have a yogic element in it, because such a person is able to attach a kind of sanctity or sacredness to whatever he does or she does. And when mind develops this mindfulness, this higher quality, it is called Smrti. It becomes a natural characteristic for a person who reaches this higher concentration, this samadhi. And it also is the means for a spiritual seeker to reach that stage. Prajna. Prajna is higher awareness, means kind of inner illumination. A person, a spiritual seeker, endowed with these qualities, when he reads something, when he thinks of something, he is able to see through or go through whatever he sees and experiences. He develops a higher insight into whatever he is doing or whatever he is interacting with. So, Shraddha, Virya, Smrti, Samadhi, Prajna. All these qualities constitute the means for reaching this higher concentration. That's what is meant here. And then in the coming sutras, we already discussed Tivra, Samveganam, Asannaha. Those who have got these qualities associated with intent and intensity and depth, for them there is no delay. For them this concentration becomes clear. Very often, when we become intense in whatever we are doing, all our energy resources get focused on that. When we do anything in a relaxed mood, in a different mood, then energies get scattered. You can find this even the national characteristics of people and nations. So, I have occasion to read the history of Japan. How Japan underwent a complete transformation after Commodore Perry opened up Japanese ports in 1853-54. Within 8-9 years, Japan developed a world-class navy. That's the 19th century, middle of 19th century. They were all living in practically some kind of Middle Ages, which were highly isolated. Then 1853 or 54, an American naval commander forced Japanese emperor to open their ports, because Japanese samurais and their old bushido, their martial art systems could not confront the well-trained modern naval soldiers of the Americans. So they were no match. So Japanese learned a great lesson. And within 8 years, they developed a world-class navy. And in 1905, the Japanese-Russo war between naval battle in Vladivostok, Russian navy, which was almost 18 times as powerful as the Japanese completely annihilated Russian navy. If you read the transformation, the story of Japan's transformation, you find it is Zen tradition that enabled them to do that. The industrial progress, hard work, discipline, the extreme intensity. I am giving an example of how this focusing, which Patanjali is discussing in the context of spiritual life, how this mindfulness or intensity, conservation of energy, the ability to focus all energy resources on a single point gives you a kind of intensity, and that how it enables a nation in material field, in industrialization, in technology, in all these areas. It's a grand example. Scattered is like a blunt blade. Concentrated becomes a sharp knife. It can cut through anything. So, that is exactly, if you remember the story of Japanese transformation, you get the meaning of these two sutras. Tivra Samveganam Asannaha and Murdu Madhya Adhimatratva Tatovi Visheshaka. These two sutras, if you read with translations, if you are not able to follow Vyasa's commentary or Yogavashivathigam of other commentators, you can read Vivekananda's. Swamiji doesn't read extensively with this subject, but elsewhere it comes. So when you can focus your energy into something through a sense of intensity and total application, then mind becomes a tremendous weapon. And that's what happens with scientists who practices conservation and research. So nature is forced to reveal secrets. Actually, when mind becomes a powerful, potent weapon and hammers at nature, gives blows to nature, nature is helpless, it is forced to reveal secrets. And we call it a scientific discovery. It doesn't come from external world, it comes from our own intuition when mind develops that quality. So that's why it is called, this can be gentle, it can be moderate, it can be excessive. So in spiritual life also, if we can develop this intensity through attaching a degree of sacredness, sanctity to what we do, then we will make quick progress. Once a while, whenever possible, I shall listen. Otherwise, when everything is okay, then I will do. So that is an example of indifference. In industrialization, in technological progress, and also in spiritual life, the principle is the same. I was giving an example from an entirely different field of a nation, how it makes a progress in industrialization and technology in different areas through extreme intensity and conservation of energy. Whole nation moving in one direction with complete unity, and great progress is made in no time. Huge nations with highly talented people, highly scattered, highly diverse, each fighting with the other, so everything is cancelled by everything else. Every skill is neutralized by its opposite. But that's why Patanjali says, Tivra Samveganam Asannaha. Those who are endured with extreme intensity of aspiration to make spiritual progress, for them, they won't wait for a minute. They won't wait for a day. Or somewhere maybe when the time is okay, I will go to Vedanta society. Otherwise, I will not. That's okay, it's like you want little protein, you eat a huge truckload of grass. You get a little protein. You also get protein if you take one protein tablet, so you get same. Capsule the same. So the same thing. So postponement, procrastination, indifference, laxity, and its opposite, extreme focus and attention. That's the example. So we are done with that subject. Now the discussion continues. How do we develop this Shraddha, Virya, Smrti, Prajna, all these qualities? There is another method that's discussed here in the 23rd Sutra, Ishvara Pranidhanatva. So it is an important sutra. These are the means and methods by which we can accomplish Vritti Nirodha and thereby achieve Samprajnata Samadhi, Rasamprajnata Samadhi. So this sutra is Ishvara Pranidhanatva. Or there is another method by devotion to Ishvara. So Ishvara Pranidhana is devotion to Ishvara, resignation to Ishvara, That's a literal meaning here. Now, you have to remember this Ishvara Pradhana was discussed elsewhere. It is the first sutra in the sadhana pada. The tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pradhanani Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is defined in the first sutra of sadhana pada. That means the earlier one. You already discussed. Kriya Yoga means tapaha swadhyaya Ishvara Pradhana. So Ishvara Pradhana, the same Sanskrit word is used. Here also it is used. Now, that's the importance of learning from a master. According to yoga interpreters, Patanjali uses the word resignation to God's will or Ishvara Pradhana in this sutra. He doesn't mean the same thing which he implied earlier in the sadhana pada. That means the earlier we already discussed. So, those of you who may remember, you can deal with this sutra here. So, tapaha swadhyaya Ishvara Pradhanani Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is defined in the first sutra of sadhana pada. So, there also it is mentioned Kriya Yoga is the first discipline. According to commentators, it means Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma, all combined is called Kriya Yoga. Please remember, it is not the Kriya Yoga that is becoming commercialized product these days. It is the Kriya Yoga. What is meant by Kriya Yoga is Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Nishkama Karma means devotion, doing whatever we do without any desire, and total non-attachment to the results of what we are doing. So, self-control and study of holy scriptures or chanting of holy names and resignation, surrender to God's will constitute Kriya Yoga here. So it is called karma phala samarpanam. That is the term used by great commentators. But in this particular context, in this 23rd sutra, according to a great yoga philosopher who wrote a commentary on Vyasa's commentary, Vijnana Bhikshu, who wrote Yoga Bhashyavartikam. He says, Ishvara Pradhana here is different from Kriya Yoga. It is totally different. So that's what we are going to discuss now. So please remember. Now we are coming to the new sutra. So the new sutra is Ishvara Pradhanatva. If you cannot practice this concentration, or if you cannot intensify the practice, then there is one method. You can attain this goal by devotion to Ishvara. So what is Ishvara Pradhanam? What is meant by devotion to God? Ishvara means God. I will remember, I will tell you one important point here. Ishvara or God in the Yoga Patanjali system is different from God as understood in the monotheistic traditions of popular Hinduism or in the Abrahamic tradition. It is not a creator God. So it is a very radical departure from the conventional monotheistic philosophy or theology. According to Sankhya system, of course they did not give much importance to God. But a yoga system gives importance to God, but it is not a supreme God who creates his world and who listens to our prayers and who fulfills our desires. It is not such a God. So God is not a very big, prominent person in the yoga tradition. So that's an important point to remember. Now, why it is important to read the commentaries, you can see. Without the commentary of Vijnana Bhikshu, who incidentally was a Buddhist, who wrote this Yoga Bhashya Vartika. According to some scholars, he was a Buddhist. He wrote a famous commentary to on Vyasa's commentary. He called it Yoga Bhashya Vartika. Yoga Bhashya is a work of Vyasa. Vartikam literally means is a commentary in metrical form, in verses. So many of these philosophical systems are so huge in their commentaries. Some commentaries may run into several volumes as big as Chambers Dictionary, Webster Dictionary, and all in poems. So anyway, so according to one commentator, Ishvara Pranidhanam means is a kind of intense devotion. So it's called Bhakti Vishesha, intense devotion. Or Vishishtam Upasana, a kind of intense meditation. Paridhana Bhakti Vishesha Avarjita Ishvara Tam Anugrinadi Avidhyana Matraya. So, this Ishvara, and who is Ishvara? There is a definition of Ishvara in the coming sutras, so that we will understand. Who is Ishvara according to Patanjali Yoga system, you will understand later. So, this Ishvara, he blesses you because of your devotion. That's why Pranidhanat Bhakti Vishesha Avarjita Ishvara Bhaktam Anugrinadi Abhidhyana Matraya. When you meditate on these higher powers, advanced souls, then their grace comes to you. Of course, before going further, I shall give a brief idea of Ishvara in the Patanjali system to make this sutra more clear. Patanjali says, Klesha Karma Vipakasi Asehi Aparamishta Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. Ishvara of God in the Patanjali system is a special type of being who is untouched by any kind of misery, action, or concern for the results of actions, or any kind of desire. So let us say that Ishvara, according to Patanjali system, is a kind of super being. But it's not a creator God. That's a point to remember. It is not the God of Abrahamic theology or popular Hinduism or any of these ordinary monotheistic religious traditions. Rather, it is the repository of infinite knowledge. Ishvara, God, is the repository, is the source of infinite knowledge. He is not burdened by any kind of kleshas. Kleshas means avidya, asmita, radha, dvesha, abhinivesha. Ignorance, the egoism, extreme attachment, extreme dislike for certain things, a kind of obsession, fear, or concern for actions, attachment to actions, and attachment to the result of actions, or any such ordinary human weaknesses. So, Patanjali's definition of God is a higher being who is untouched by any of the human weaknesses or human failings. This is the point to understand. Now, in this 23rd Sutra, Patanjali says, even if you cannot develop any of these qualities, still, if you meditate on that Ishvara, and with that meditation it becomes a great intense devotion, then you are blessed, you are benefited. Now, if you can meditate upon somebody who according to us is a repository of great qualities, then naturally those qualities come to us. So there is you can find this, I try to relate this to ordinary human life experiences. If you constantly look upon somebody as an ideal for you, if you have an uncle or a grandfather who is a great scientist, and as a grandson or granddaughter, you look upon him as your ideal. And then if you go to school, there is a possibility that your great reverence to your grandfather who is a great scientist may influence your studies, and you may try to study your science subjects with great attention. If your ideal is a football player, then you may try to go to gymnasium and try to grow tall, 5-7 feet and maybe 350 pounds, something like that. That's what we are ideal. So all depends upon whatever we look upon as our ideal, there's a tendency for us to become that. Now Patanjali is interpreting this phenomenon as a kind of grace coming from that person. So that is the anthropomorphic interpretation. Very often, when we look upon God, when we look upon God as our ideal, we try to give all the attributes that we like, we want to have to that God. That's what happens. Nobody wants a God who is poor, or who will make you poor, or who is in a very wretched and unhappy condition. Because we want to be happy, so we want a God who is himself very happy all the time, and who will make you happy. So Patanjali says, if you really meditate, become a devotee of these great spiritual souls who have reached this higher level of Ishvara, who could become an Ishvara by their own spiritual practice, then by their grace you also become benefited by that. So that's an important point to remember. Now next Sutra 25th. Tatra nirabhisayam sarvajnatva bijam. Now another point is made. The difference between Ishvara or God and a liberated soul is mentioned here. So this sutra is a background. These qualities that we mentioned now, freedom from all kleshas, freedom from all worries, freedom from ignorance, egotism, freedom from extreme obsession, extreme likes and dislikes, all these prejudices, and freedom from any kind of concern for the results of our actions, anxiety for the results of what we are doing, and freedom from extreme attachment to present experiences. All these are found in highly advanced spiritual persons. So, what's the difference between Ishvara and this person? And a liberated soul. In all liberated souls, spiritually liberated souls, you find all these qualities. They are free from egoism. They are free from all kind of kleshas, likes and dislikes, obsessions and attachments, anxieties and problems and worries for actions and the results and so on. So it's this level of freedom from all these burdens, psychological burdens, could be found in all liberated spiritual advanced souls. So what's the difference between such highly advanced spiritual persons and God? That point, that difference is explained in the next sutra, 25th. Tatra niridisayam sarvajnatva bijam. This Ishvara, he has got omniscience, means sarvajnatva means knowing everything. That's a very important point to remember. And this is an attribute that we give to all monotheistic God concepts. According to some modern writers like Dr. Radhakrishnan, who interpreted, of course, Radhakrishnan was not a classical commentator of yoga system. He was not a great Sanskrit scholar like Vyasa, Vijnana Bhikshu, all these great classical commentators, but he was a famous exponent of Indian thought, Indian philosophy. Maybe arguably he was the most articulate, most scholarly and most well-known exponent of Indian systems of philosophy. So according to great modern exponents and scholars like Radhakrishnan, there is no difference between the monotheistic God of popular religions and Ishvara of yogis. So that you have to keep in mind. So very often you find there is little difference between the classical commentators and modern exponents. And if you compare these two groups of scholars, modern scholars who wrote in English and the great Sanskrit commentators, and if you compare them for higher logical thinking, the boldness of logical analysis, then the modern professors will be at a disadvantage. That's the greatness of this. So it is something very interesting. If a man like Bertrand Russell fades into a very conservative, God-fearing, church-going person, if you compare him with these yoga philosophers, so thoroughgoing analysis. That's a very interesting thing. I don't think anywhere else such bold thinking. And mind you, maybe even a person like Richard Dawkins will be ashamed, put to shame, if you compare him in sheer boldness of expression. The boldness, the courage with which they demolish the superstitions associated with creationism now, all these things. That's something very interesting. So this Vijnana Bhikshu who wrote Yoga Bhashya Vartikam, the other commentators, Vyasa, Shankara who wrote Vyasa Bhashya Vivarana, if we compare them with modern exponents, it's very interesting. A king was a great bird who wrote Raja Martanda. Vijnana Bhikshu wrote Yoga Bhashya Vartikam, and Vajaspati wrote Tattva Vaisharati. And compare the early commentators, those Sanskrit commentators who lived comparatively in modern times tend to become more conservative. But in sheer boldness of logic, that incisive logical analysis and courage with which they demolish many of our conventional belief systems, these early commentators' yoga system are very, very remarkable. So that's why he says, this God is not a big thing. That's what classical commentators say. God is nothing but omniscience, higher knowledge in His fullness. That's what they say. So they didn't need the help of a powerful, muscular, well-dressed, good-looking God with a crown, mind you, with plenty of weapons. Well, some gods are armed to the teeth, in fact, and who may inspire you, will threaten you with a petition, or who may reward you with heaven, nothing of the kind. So such boldness of thinking and analysis, that's what you find in the classical commentaries. So that's why this Vijnana Bhikshu says this God is different. Tatra nivedisayam sarvakitva bijam. So what is God? God is a person, Ishvara is a person who is a repository of all knowledge. In ordinary human knowledge exists in truth. Knowledge exists therefore in parts. Remember, you must remember one factor. We are just discussing the views of one system of Indian philosophy called Yoga, system of Indian philosophy. So, when we read this, we should not get the impression that this is the essence of Indian philosophy. No, not at all. This is not Vedanta. It's not like Vedanta. It is just one of the several schools of Indian philosophy, And this philosophy happened to be associated with yoga system, which in its rather highly lopsided form is becoming popular today in the form of physical exercise. So we took up this subject. The physical exercise part of yoga is a very fragmentary, highly lopsided, just a very small fraction of the whole yoga philosophy. There is a great philosophy behind. So what some of the commentators say, Idareshu sarvajitva bijam tatra niradishayam vartade. That's meaning. In other highly elevated spiritual seekers, great masters, they also have got this knowledge, omniscience, but in part, in incomplete form. But in Ishvara, in God, omniscience, knowledge is in its perfection, in its totality and complete form. That's what it means. And the next sutra is Sapurvesham abhi guruhu kalena anavachedad. Now, this sutra says, this Ishvara is a teacher of even the ancient teachers because of being unlimited by time. So, the yoga concept of God is a repository of all knowledge in its most perfect, complete form, who remains unlimited, unaffected by time, with beyond time. In other words, for Patanjali, God is only the teacher, the great teacher of all teachers. Incidentally, those of you who are interested, you may take note of this. Basically, there are three main conceptions of God in Hindu Vedantic tradition. The one is what we already mentioned, the Patanjala concept. God is regarded as the teacher of all teachers, a great teacher. The second, Nyaya school of logic. So Gautama was the great sage who wrote this famous book. So those of you, of course philosophy is not a very popular subject these days, those who study comparative philosophy. And if you read the great works of the Gautama, who wrote Gautama Sutras around 2500 BC, is a sutra literature, and even the school of logic has itself three periods of development. That is Gautama Nyaya in the early form, then Madhyama Nyaya. There's a great Buddhist philosopher who lived in the maybe around 5th century AD, his name is Dignaga. He also was a great logician who was the exponent of Madhyama Nyaya, means the Nyaya philosophy, the logical system belonging to the middle period, intermediary period, and modern Nyaya, Navya Nyaya, the latest school. Okay, now these are three schools of Indian logic. According to them, these logical philosophers, God is called Karma Phaladada, somebody who distributes the results of your actions, and is the efficient cause of this universe, non-material cause. So you have to remember, efficient cause means, let us say, a pot maker is an efficient cause. The earth or the soil out of which he makes the pot is a material cause. So, according to this Nyaya school, God is the efficient cause. But he needs some materials from which he has to make this God, according to Nyaya school. Vedanta school is the more complete form. Here, God is the teacher of all teachers, and God is the material cause and also the efficient cause. So that's an important, unique aspect. In Abrahamic traditions also, God is the efficient cause. The pot maker makes a pot. God is not a material cause. But in Vedantic tradition, God is the material cause and also efficient cause. In the highest Vedantic tradition, there is no, in the ultimate analysis, there is no difference between the creator and the creation. The creator himself is immanent as an indweller in the creation. So that's a very unique concept. This idea is explained in a very interesting, it is something like the Upanishadi equivalent of Genesis. Tasustva tadeva anupravishat tad anupravisya svachatecha abhavat. So God created the world and then He entered into what He created and became one with it. So at the highest level of our spiritual evolution, we realize that in the ultimate analysis, there is nothing but God. God is everything. You find Sri Ramakrishna is simple and everything is God. Nothing moves without it. Not a blade of grass can move without God. Sri Ramakrishna puts simple language. So the ultimate analysis, the difference between creator and creation disappears. Again, we should not take the Aristotelian analysis, logical analysis, efficient cause and material cause analogy to Vedanta. I mean, if a pot maker and a pot are the same, it cannot be. So, this is only an illustration. In Vedantic concept, God is present in everything. And the so-called everything, the whole cosmos, universe, is a creation of God. So then antapravisya satyatecha abhavat tadanupravisya tatsrishtua. After creating this world, God entered into it and became one with it. Satyatecha abhavat means after creating this world, God became one with His creation. So, and He breathed His soul in the nostrils of man, the biblical statement you can take. But that may not be agreeable to Augustine Aquinas. It's a different matter. Breathing the soul in the nostrils of man in the Bible, if you compare it with that satyatecha abhavat anupravisya, and God entered into His own creation, if you draw the analysis, I don't think the theologians will be happy. But there are great modern thinkers like the great thinker who translated some parts of Vedic Sutras, the Vedic experience, Raymond Panikya is a great Vedic scholar who taught Vedas in Rome, the Catholic Christian Vatican seminary he taught, and he translated Rigveda into English. You can get the book from our library, our bookstore here, the Mantra Manjariya Vedic experience. According to those thinkers, they don't agree with Augustine Aquinas and modern theologians. So they say, in the ultimate analysis, in Christian theology also, the creator-creation difference vanishes. As we evolve in spiritual life, we realize that God actually enters into His own creation and becomes one with His own creation. So that's an interesting teaching. So that's a Vedantic concept. So these are three broad views related to the conceptions of God in Hindu tradition. One is the Patanjali view, Patanjali's concept, where he says God is the supreme teacher, the teacher of all teachers. That is Purveshamati Guru, who is not limited by time. Then the Nyaya means the school of logic, according to logic, school of logic. God is just a distributor of the results of your actions, but He is not equal to the monotheistic creator God. In Vedanta, it accepts the monotheistic concept, but it says that as you evolve in your spiritual life, your concept of God also evolves, as you go beyond your body association, as you no longer associate yourself with this world, then you don't relate God with this world. So God, the creator of this world, disappears, and God, the all-pervading supreme reality, alone exists. So that God is immanent in everything, and that God is also omnipresent. So omnipresence through immanence. So that's it. Omnipresence through immanence. That's an important one. He's all-pervading because He is present in everything as an indweller. So there is the concept of evolution of the idea of God parallel to the evolution of our own spiritual life. As we go to a higher and higher level, our idea of God also evolves as we get a more and more complete picture of the absolute reality. We also evolve in spiritual life. So now we will have interaction. We have, yes, we can take 5-10 minutes and take one question.
So you define God as the distributor of the results of your actions. And then there's also the yoga of karma, which has like a debit and credit based on your actions. So just wondering what the difference is between your karmic actions and your karmic account, and why God is the distributor of those results if the results are just directly proportional to your karmic.
So, I was just referring to three concepts of God, three conceptions of God in Hindu philosophy, in the six systems of theistic systems of Indian philosophy. The concept of Patanjali is this: God is the teacher of all teachers, because in God knowledge is in full, absolute, complete, perfect. According to the school of Nyaya, the logical schools, God is just a distributor. Now, if you look at the Vedantic concept, Vedanta accommodates all these concepts. Vedanta accommodates all these concepts. And according to Vedanta, there is a kind of evolution in our own understanding of God, which runs parallel to our own spiritual evolution. Maybe at one stage of our spiritual life, we may look upon God as the distributor of all our actions, results of our actions, or maybe the teacher of our teachers. That concept is not wrong. That is perfectly alright at one stage of our spiritual evolution. As we evolve beyond that, when we start looking beyond this world, and when we start thinking of some higher idea, transcendental idea, when you don't need this world, then you don't have to think of God as a creator of this world. When we are not concerned with this world, you have nothing to pray for, then you don't worry about a God who is just a distributor of. You have nothing to, you have nothing to buy or purchase, you don't go to a shopping place. When you don't need anything, when you reach that level of spiritual evolution, when you transcend all desires, then your idea of God also transcends the concept of God as a distributor of your actions, because you are not concerned with that. But as we evolve, God doesn't disappear. A higher idea of God automatically emerges in our mind. A God who is not necessarily to be defined as a creator of this world. A God who is the all-pervading reality. When you are no more worried about the world, why should you worry about the God who creates this world? So this is a very interesting thing. Our understanding of God is a creation of our own mindset. So there is some kind of truth in the views of the authors of God illusion and all that. What they say, God is our Lord, is a creation of our own imagination. In fact, there is a truth in what they say. Not in the sense in which they mean that, but in a different sense. There is a truth, somebody tells you the God is just your own imagination. That is true. Because when you evolve in spiritual life, you evolve a higher concept of God. But those who deny the existence of God, the agnostics and atheists, who tell you the God is a product of human imagination, they are jumping from concept to concept, idea to idea. You ask them to sit and meditate for 5 minutes, they cannot do that. They may go to a library, read a mighty big book and write a huge work. But ask them to sit and train their mind, start an inner journey, they cannot do that. Once you do that, then another kind of growth and evolution begins to take place in your inner journey. Then you find at a higher level, you naturally realize, experience, not conceive of, it's not a concept or an idea, but you realize the reality of God who is present everywhere. That's an important point to remember. So that's why, Buddha's concept of mindfulness is a means and also an end. It's a natural characteristic of a very liberated person to be established in mindfulness. That's why the Pali word Satyupattana Sutta means Sthitupasthana Sutra. You get being established in Siddhi means a kind of permanent awareness, permanent mental awareness. So that becomes natural when we transcend beyond the concept of this world or our actions and their results. And then you also go beyond your idea of a God who creates this wonderful world and gives us plenty of whatever we want to eat and drink and pray for, or anything like that. As we transcend the world, then we have no use for a created God. A God creates this world. That doesn't mean God disappears. You don't become an atheist. You become a Vedantic. That's what happens. That's what happens. Yeah. Instead of becoming an atheist, atheists they can, with one more step in the right direction, they can land in Vedanta. But they don't do that. Because they are traveling from idea to idea, concept to concept. There is no inner journey taking place. So that's the problem, the basic problem with Western philosophical tradition from Augustine onwards and in the Vedantic philosophy. In Vedanta philosophy, there is always some kind of experience, some kind of inner practice associated with all these ideas. It's not like you teach Kant, critical pluralism, you are called a Kantian. If you teach Marxian economics, then you become a Marxist. You teach Bentham or Jason, you become a utilitarian. So that's how academics are known. Because they teach that book, or they may have read that book. But Vedanta, just by reading Upanishad, you don't become a Vedanti. And that's the point. You may teach Upanishad. There are many people who have taught Upanishads in universities and still remaining atheists and agnostics. I know many of them. Before coming over here, I know many, dozens. And many of them are active members of the Communist Party from the place I am coming from, in Kerala. Many academics teaching Upanishads, great Sanskrit philosophers, cutthroat non-believers. It's possible. So that's the difference here. And in fact, that's my own understanding. In fact, I have researched with such people. Great Sanskrit scholars who are teaching Brahma Sutras, Upanishad Bhashyas and all that, but they don't believe in God or anything. It's possible. So that's an important point to remember. There's always a link between what you believe in and how you live in Vedanta. That link is absent in Nyaya system, that we are talking about. Of course, in Patanjali system there is a link, but that link is more or less based on the yama niyama practice of pranayama, pratyahara, etc. That's okay.
Thank you.
I'm reading, I'm not too sure, Patanjali, or Vivekananda's book.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Patanjali.
Oh yeah, that's the right book to read.
Yeah, how do you pronounce that? My apologies.
That's right.
Okay, he's talking about there are requirements for samadhi. And I'm wondering if a married man, I can achieve that, because one of them is...
Yeah, you can, certainly you can.
Okay.
But, yeah. So to begin with, one should practice contentment, non-violence, and purity of life, and then reading scriptures, and feeding the mind with good food.
Okay. Well,
the food for the mind is thoughts, ideas. By reading, by listening to, by discussion. So when the mind gets good food, then slowly you start your journey. And then eventually you find step by step. So once our mind is ready, then if you continue reading, you get the light. That's what. Everyone can. Patanjali doesn't draw any geographical, cultural boundaries, lines of boundaries. It is yoga is a very universal thing, like Vedanta. And for all these are universal. The school of logic, the school of Patanjali system, the school of Vedanta, these are all universal. One interesting thing is, you don't have to stop believing in what you are believing now and start believing something new. That's one important aspect. It's all universal. So anyone can. Anyone can.
I notice with myself and the concentration when I meditate, it's always thoughts of myself that get in the way. I have a hard time just focusing on nothing because I'm always thinking of my ego. It pops up constantly.
So in that case, first before you start meditation, if you can raise your mind to a higher level or take your mind away from its ordinary pursuits, take it to something higher, something good. Say before you start meditation, you read a good book, spiritual work, and then you can read any noble, sublime spiritual literature, or you can listen to spiritually enlightening music. That will slowly prepare the mind for meditation. So starting to meditate all of a sudden is like expecting a car to reach 100 miles within split second. The car will break into pieces, the jet. So mind also suddenly will revolt and will feel highly disturbed if you just work hard and do a lot of things, so many obligations, responsibilities, work, and then start into meditation. Then when you start trying to meditate, all those thoughts will come back to the mind. So before that, you must sit quiet for some time. If possible, take a cold water bath and sit for some time and read some holy book.
Okay, well I do that constantly.
And then you find when you start sitting quiet, those thoughts will arise. Other thoughts also may come, but these thoughts also, the healthy food, healthy, spiritually helpful thoughts also will come. As we do more and more, you find more and more of useful, healthy thought currents and less of negative thought currents. That's what we practice. So thank you. So we will continue the discussion in the next session. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tatsa Sri Ram Krishna.